Hello everyone. In the previous class, we have discussed the drawbacks of SJF algorithm. So, the drawbacks is what? The SJF algorithm is not implementable. Why so? Because in SJF algorithm, particularly in preemption cases, we cannot predict the burst time of the next process. So, the process who are in the ready state, how many times it is going to execute in the CPU, the actual burst time of the process are unknown. We don't have any idea the burst time about the processes who are in the ready state. But there are some algorithms, there are some methods by using that methods we can predict, we can approximately predict the burst time of the previous process or the burst time of the next process. I can't say we can predict the actual burst time of the process, but approximate burst time, you can predict the approximate burst time of the process. Okay. So, the first method is simple method. Okay. So, I am going to tell you the simple method. So, to find out the burst time of the, to find out or to predict the burst time of the process, the simple method is two types, based on two types. Okay, it is based on, first is process size, second one is process type. So, we can predict the burst time of the process based on the two methods, that is process size and process type. First is process size. Suppose there is a process who is arrived at the ready state at some point, at some time. For example, this is the old process who is in ready state and the size of that process suppose 100 kb, okay, and the burst time of that process suppose 5 unit of time. Let the process which is size of 100 kb and it is executing in CPU for 5 unit of time. After the execution is complete, after the termination of the process, old process, there is a new process which is arrived at the ready state after some time. Suppose P new is there, now in ready state, and the size of the process suppose 105 kb. In this particular example, at that moment we can predict the burst time of the process, new process. How? Based on the size of that process, based on the size of this previous process. The size of the old process is 100 kb and the size of the new process is 105 kb. The size of the previous process is very nearby to this size of the new process. So, we can predict, we can think that the burst time of the new process may be approximately similar to the old process. It will execute in the CPU approximately 5 unit of time. I cannot say it is correct all the time, okay, may or may not be, because there also another method, another thing, that is process type. We cannot say that the size of the, if the size of the two processes are same, then the burst time of the process are also same. We cannot say all the time. It may be true or may not be true. Why so? Because size doesn't matter all the time. There are also process type that would matter. How? See, I am taking an example. Suppose you are traveling from Delhi to Mumbai. Okay. So, you are going to travel Delhi to Mumbai and you are in Delhi, and the distance between Delhi to Mumbai, I guess 1500 kilometer. Okay, and suppose some person obtain its way of transportation by flight. He used flight for traveling and it would take 2 hours. Then another person obtained way of its transportation by train. Then it would take suppose 20 hours. Then another person use its own vehicle, suppose bus or car, suppose car, and it would take suppose 60 hours. See, size is same, distance is same. Delhi to Mumbai, the distance between Delhi to Mumbai is same, but the time differs. Why? The time, the transportation time, traveling time is differs. Why? Because the type of the transportation a person is used. So the time taken by the person is depends on the type of the transportation the person is taken to obtain its transportation. So through this example, we understand that size doesn't matter all the time. If two processes are having the same size, we cannot say that they are having same burst time. Maybe same or may not be same. It depends on the type of the process. So this is called simple method. By applying, we can predict the burst time of the process. Another type is simple averaging method. By averaging the time of the previous processes who are in the CPU and the burst time of the previous processes, by which we can predict the next process. We can predict the burst time of the next process. Okay. Suppose there are 5 processes who are in ready state and it will be picked by the operating system and go to the CPU. Suppose there completes its execution and the actual burst time of this 5 processes are, suppose P1 took T1 time, P2 took T2, P3 took T3, T4 and T5. Suppose the burst time, the execution time of these processes are T1, T2, T3, T4 and T5. Suppose we have to calculate P6, process 6. What is the burst time? What is the prediction of burst time of the P6? How can we calculate? Simply add this time divided by 5, number of process. Simply add and divided by 5. So by solving the average time of the burst time of the previous processes, we can predict the upcoming process burst time. Okay, fine. So on the other word, we can write like 1 by n summation of I equal to 1 to n T of I. Okay, where T of I is the actual burst time of the process, Pi. This is the actual burst time of the process, T of I, that is 6. Okay, if we put the formula into this, then 1 by n, n is how many processes are there? There are 5 processes who are completes its execution in the CPU. So obviously we have the actual burst time of that process. Okay, so the actual burst time is given T1 to T5. Okay, so I equal to 1 to n, that is P1 to P5. Okay, summation of this time, we can find out the actual burst time of the process, next process P6, that is T of I. The Ti is the actual burst time of the process, that is P6, the actual burst time of the next process P6. Okay. Next method is exponential averaging method. So by using this method we can calculate the expected time, the burst time, the expected burst time of the next process. Fine. So the formula is E of I plus 1 equal to alpha A of I plus 1 minus alpha E of I. Okay. So what is this E of I plus 1? That is the expected time of the next process, new process. So I plus 1 is expected time for the process I plus 1 who have not been reached yet. Okay. So A of I equal to actual burst time of the process I. Fine. So the process who are in CPU, who are in ready state, there have some actual burst time are given. Okay. So AI is the actual burst time of the process I, that is previous process, and EI equal to expected time of the previous process. Suppose we have to calculate the expected burst time of the P5, then it depends on the expected time of the previous process. Then P5 equal to, that is E plus I plus 1. If E plus I plus 1 equal to P5, then it depends on the previous process, that is P4, that is E of I, expected burst time of the P4. Okay. And the formula is this, E of I plus 1 equal to alpha A of I plus 1 minus alpha E of I. Okay. That means the expected time of the new process is depends on the actual burst time of the previous process and the expected time of that process. Okay. So this is the new process which we have to calculate, that is EI plus 1. It depends on what? It depends on actual burst time of the previous process. If we calculate P5, then we have to find out the actual burst time of the P4, and simultaneously we have to find out the expected time of that process P4, previous process. Okay, fine. So, and this alpha factors range from 0 to 1. Okay, we cannot take alpha as 0 and 1. We can take alpha range from 0 to 1. Why so? Because if we take alpha equal to 0, then what happened? Just put this into this formula. Okay, if alpha equal to 0, then it would be 0. This is 0. Then 1 minus alpha. Then the formula became E of I plus 1 equal to E of I. If alpha equal to 0, then it will become E of I. Then what happened? The expected time of the new process depends on the expected time of the previous process. Okay, which is not true, because if we find out E of I, then how can we find E of I equal to, if we find out the E of I, then we have to find out the previous process. Okay. So previous process means alpha A of I minus 1 plus 1 minus alpha E of I minus 1. Next, if we find out E of I minus 1, then alpha A I minus 2 plus 1 minus alpha E I minus 2. Then E I minus 2 equal to alpha A I minus 3 plus 1 minus alpha ei minus 3, and it would go to the initial process, initial expected time of the process. Fine. So, if we put the formula alpha equal to 0 to the formula, then the expected time of the new process totally depends on the expected time of the previous process, which is not true actually. Okay, we have to find out the expected time of the process. So, the new process expected time, burst time of the new process should depends on the actual burst time of the process and expected time of the process. And suppose if we take alpha equal to 1, then what happened? If we put this formula into this, then E of I plus 1 will become, see, this, if alpha equal to 1, then it would be A plus I, then it would be 0. Then E of I plus 1 equal to A of I. See, so the expected burst time of the new process is totally depends on the actual burst time of the previous process. If we have to find out the expected time of the P5, then it would depends on the actual burst time of the P4 actually, which is very dynamic. Fine. So, alpha should range between 0 to 1. It should not take, we should not take alpha 0 or alpha equal to 1, because the expected time of the burst time of the new process is not totally depends on the actual burst time of the previous process, or not totally depends on the expected time of the previous process. It will depends both on expected time of the previous process and actual burst time of the previous process. Okay. So, I am giving an example. By solving a problem, we can more clear about this. Here is a question is given. We have to solve this question by using exponential averaging method, and to find out the next expected burst time of the next process, we have to apply this exponential averaging. Here in the question, alpha is given, it is always given in the question, alpha equal to 0.5. I have already told you that alpha is range between 0 to 1. We cannot take alpha as 0 or alpha as 1. So, expected time of the initial process is given, E of 1 equal to 5. Okay. So, we have to find out the burst time of the next process, that is P5. Okay. So, by using exponential averaging method. So, here in the table we can see that 4 processes are given and the actual burst time of the process are given. So, this burst time is A of I, that is the actual burst time of the process, and the expected time of the initial process is given, that is E of 1 is given. Now, what is the formula? Formula is E of I plus 1 equal to alpha A of I plus 1 minus alpha E of I. Okay. Here is the formula, and putting this formula we can find out the expected time of the P5, the burst time of the P5. So, put what is E of I plus 1, that is we have to find out P5. So, put the formula here, P5 equal to alpha A of I, that means to find out the P5 we have to put the actual burst time of the previous process, that is P4. Okay, the actual burst time of the previous process is 6. So, you have to put here. Okay. So, this is alpha into 6 plus 1 minus alpha expected time of the previous process. Here expected time of the previous process are not given. Okay, we have to find out the expected time of the P4. This is not given. Okay, so expected time is not given. This is the actual burst time. Expected time is not given. So we just write down E4. So the value of alpha is 0.5 into 6 plus 1 minus alpha, that is 0.5 into E of 4. So we cannot say the expected time of the E4, then we have to find out the expected time of the E4. E4 equal to alpha actual burst time of the previous process, that is E3 plus 1 minus alpha expected time of the previous process, that is 0.5 into E3 actual burst time of the process 3 is 5 plus 1 minus alpha E of 3. Next, E of 3 equal to 0.5 actual burst time of the E2, that is 8 plus 1 minus alpha E2. Fine. E2 equal to 0.5 into actual burst time of the previous process, that is E1, that is 4 plus 1 minus alpha, that is 0.5. You can write here 0.5 also. Fine. And expected time of the E1 initial process, which is given in the question, that is 5. So expected time, the time of the initial process is given. So we can find out the expected time of the process 2, that is 2.0 plus 0.5 into 5. 2.0 plus 2.5, that is 4.5. So the expected burst time of the E2 is find out now, 4.5. So put this 4.5 into E3. Okay, this E3 equal to actual burst time of the previous process and expected time of the previous process, that is E2, which is already find out. So put this formula into, put this value into E3, that is 4.5. If we calculate E3, 6.25, and we have the expected time of the process E3, 6.25. Put the value to the previous process, that is E4, 6.25, and find out the expected time of the E4. Then the expected time of the E4, 5.625. Then finally come to our question, P5. So P5 depends on the expected time of the previous process, that is E4, that is P4, which has not given, but now we have the expected time of the P4, that is 5.625. Just put this value into E4, that is 5.625. So the burst time, expected burst time of the process P5, 5.81. This is the answer. So you come to know that how we calculate the expected time of the next process by using the exponential averaging method. So we can calculate the expected time of the next process by using this simple method, simple averaging method, exponential averaging method. See, I am not saying that this is the actual, this is the approximate burst time. Okay, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. We just calculate the approximate burst time of the next process. Okay, so that's it guys. See you in the next one. Thank you.